Well, hello there, dears. This is the crazy way education works sometimes. Now, do you remember this bucket? Oh, there's my little doggy. Remember this bucket? Well, this bucket now is on... Get my doggy. She loved this bucket. This bucket was the one that I showed you last time out in the woods. And that was the bucket that I promised to put some deer bones into. Well, that's why she's sniffing. You can probably tell that I did put some deer bones in there. Now, they're no longer in there. So when I open up this lid, you're not going to see anything gross. But this is the cool way that education works, as I was saying, because when you start to study something, what almost invariably happens is you end up learning about not just the thing you're studying, but about 10 other things that are connected to it. Now, I mentioned in the last video that there was some insect activity on that carcass. I actually didn't see any insects on it at the time, but I figured there would be. So I carefully picked up those pieces as I said I would, and I put them in this bucket, and I saw nothing except the pieces. Then, when I took the pieces out today to prepare them, I saw, to my amazement, that I had a little prize in the bottom of this bucket, and that is some really beautiful insects. So I've done a little bit of study on them, and I'm going to show them to you right now. Now, here they are. You might not think they're so beautiful just yet, but actually, if you look really, really carefully, you'll see that they're quite beautiful. If I'm clever, I can maybe figure out a way to get one out. Let me just zoom in for a second. Let me get some sun in there too. Okay, there's some sun. Oh, there's a nice one. Okay, do you see that the beetle is actually quite an attractive beetle? And not only that, it's got some pretty colors and markings on it. Here's a few more. An interesting little guy, actually. Oh, there's a nice shot of one there. You see that pretty well? So if you actually went for a count, you would see that there's a really surprising number of beetles inside that bucket. And it's a funny thing, like I said, I didn't actually see them when I initially picked up those parts. So they must have been in little nooks and crannies, doing their business, eating the flesh that still remained on those bones. Oh, there's a little maggot that just fell on by too. So there's other beetles in there too. But largely, the larger ones are in there. And the larger ones are really quite pretty, as you can see, because they have that rather nice red marking on them as well. And the little sort of point out the back. There's a cute guy right there. Oh, I've always liked beetles. Okay, so I did some research on them, and I found that they are exactly the sort of beetle that I should have found there. So there's nothing surprising about that. An entomologist, a beetle studier, insect studier would have been completely unsurprised and expecting to find these on the deer. What they're called is carrion beetles, C-A-R-R-I-O-N. And carrion beetles eat carrion. And as you can probably guess from now, carrion is dead animal flesh. Now, the interesting thing is, you might have seen something rather gross out in the woods at one point or another, maybe even some animal dung. And you probably noticed that flies will land on animal dung almost immediately. Well, the cool thing is that the carrion beetles don't arrive right away. Right, the flies will land there quickly, and one of the first things the flies do, of course, is that they will lay a bunch of eggs on those, on the piece of dung or on the piece of dead meat, because they know that there's going to be an incredible feast there for their babies once those babies hatch. Now, the carrion beetles will come a little bit later, actually. As a matter of fact, they time themselves so that when they get there, there's usually some maggots there, and their first meal is not of the meat. Their first meal is of the maggots. Isn't that incredible? Another example of circle of life for you right there. And so the carrion beetles will then start to feast on the flesh. They will lay their own eggs, and their little babies will hatch, and they'll have a great big party of it. So it's another example of insects helping to take that carcass and take the energy of it and the proteins and all the connective tissues and break that down, put that back into the soil. Because, of course, they'll be pooping along all the while as they're doing that. So another example of nature at work. Now, the interesting thing is also that these little beetles, I wasn't aware of this, can actually fly as well. If you look carefully, you'll see that some of them might be sticking their little wings out. So even though they're rather larger and rather heavy beetles, they can actually still fly. Now, oh, there's one. Did you see that? One just tried to take flight right there. So I was thinking maybe I would try to get one to crawl on my hand, I might just try that. Just a moment. I get one to crawl up on my hand. Let's just see. Come on, little guy. I don't want to hurt you. Come here. Come here, little fella. Would you crawl up on my hand there? Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, I think I got one. Oh, I got two. Oh, oh. Just a moment. Well, I'm having a bit of a tough time. I don't want to hurt anything. So I'll just give you another look at that again.